Hello everybody and welcome to our Advent family event, our online Advent family event. We're sorry we can't be in the church hall as we would normally be, but we didn't want the occasion of Advent to go without marking it in some way, and hence we've produced this mixture of different activities, songs and talks to help us prepare for Christmas. We've produced a bit like the old sweet stores where you go and pick and mix and take one of this and one of that. And there's a mixture. There's some songs from Carly, some talks from Rosie and Reverend Matt, and then a variety of different craft activities for you to try. And hopefully the craft activities will cover all age groups from tiny tots right the way through to grandparents. Most of the activities will rely on things that you've got at home or on bits of stuff that you can find in the gardens or out in the parks. So you won't need many materials, but there are one or two that require somewhat more specialist materials, and we have produced bags which have got these materials in, plus a supplementary bar of chocolate as well, as a matter of temptation. And these bags are available on Saturday the 5th of December from the North Porch in the morning at church, or the following week from the parish office in the church hall. So please do come and pick up one of these family bags, and without further ado I will let you enjoy the rest of the video.
Hello everybody, let me just put my knitting away. I've been making angels and I think this is number 11, so I've only got one more to go to get my dozen angels. And I do my knitting when I'm watching television. But when I was a little girl, television was not like it is today. For one thing, we didn't have it every 24 hours a day. There was no morning television, and you had to wait till 5 o'clock for children's television to come on. And then when that was finished, it shut down again until the grown-up programmes started. I loved watching programmes like The Little Princess and Heidi, but no matter how eager I was to find out what happened next, I had to wait a whole week for the next episode. There was no streaming service, no ITV hub, and no box sets. You couldn't record things. You just had to be patient and wait. And then, just as the next episode was due, my parents would decide they wanted to go out. And that was that. No catch-up. I had to go to the library and borrow the book and see what happened next. But you know, I quite enjoyed it because I would spend the whole week imagining what the next episode would bring, whether the heroine would win over the bad guy or whether disaster was looming for both of them. I enjoyed making up the endings as much as I enjoyed the real thing when it came round. And when I read the book, I found out all the bits that the programme makers had decided to leave out. We've all been doing a lot of waiting recently, waiting for that lockdown to end, waiting to go back to school, waiting to get a haircut, waiting for the second lockdown to be over, and never being quite sure what would happen next. Will we get the ending we want, or will something totally unexpected happen? Mary and Joseph had a lot of waiting to do. First of all, Mary had to wait to discover just what Joseph was going to say when he discovered that she was going to have a baby that wasn't his. Fortunately, an angel went to visit him and told him everything would be fine, and Mary could heave a sigh of relief. But then there would be the waiting to see what other people would think when a teenage girl announced that she was going to have a baby. It's not the sort of thing that people expect to happen, not when you're in your teens in Palestine. And then I'm sure they were expecting to have the baby at home, and I'm sure they'd made lots of plans and they'd worked out which grandmother would come to help. But suddenly, all of that went wrong as well, because the emperor decided to have a census, which meant that instead of being comfortable at home, they had to go to Bethlehem, which was Joseph's hometown. It wasn't, I am absolutely sure, the ending that they were expecting. But it was the ending that God had decided on, or rather, it was the beginning that God had decided on, the beginning of a life that was going to change the world. Now, probably when you were born, you got a lot of visits, people coming to see the new baby. Well, Jesus had visitors too, shepherds. They were the lowliest, the least important people in society. And these shepherds had been frightened out of their lives by the appearance of a crowd of angels in the sky at night. But that fear wasn't enough to stop them rushing to the stable to see Jesus. I love to imagine the conversations they had with their families that night, and probably over and over again for weeks to come. And later on, more visitors came. Wise men who had travelled for a very long time across very dangerous country because they knew the star they had seen in the sky meant something important. It wasn't an easy journey. There were times when they must have been fed up and weary and prepared to just turn around and go home. But they kept going, and in the end they came face to face with Jesus. We're on a journey, all of us. You, me, everybody. And we're all hoping that this journey through COVID will be over soon with a good ending. But much, much, much more important is the journey that we're on this Advent. As with each week and each day, we get closer to the moment when we celebrate the birth of Jesus. We know the ending, that he came as our Saviour, that he loves us in ways that we can't possibly imagine, and that he will never, ever leave us. But even though we know the ending, why don't we all make a resolution to read the story with our families again this Advent, and look out for those bits that we've missed before, and, which I find very interesting, think about how we would fit into the story. I always imagine myself as a wife of one of the shepherds, wondering why on earth he came home that night, gabbling incomprehensibly about angels and stars and a baby lying in straw. What about you? Who might you have been? This Advent, let's put ourselves into the story and see what God has to tell us that we've never thought about before.
Little donkey on the dusty road, got to keep on plodding onwards with your precious load. Been a long time, little donkey, through the winter's night. Don't give up now, little donkey, Bethlehem's in sight. Ring out those bells tonight, Bethlehem, Bethlehem. Follow that star tonight, Bethlehem, Bethlehem. Little donkey had a heavy day. There are wise men waiting for a sign to bring them here. Do not falter, little donkey, there's a star ahead. It will guide you, little donkey, to a cattle shed.
Hello. My focus today in the Christmas story is the arrival of Mary and Joseph at Bethlehem. They wanted some room. They needed a space. Sometimes you may want some space of your own. You may have tried to get to a room in a hotel, and in a hotel room you may find a sign that says "Do not disturb," which you can hang on the door. You can make your own "Do not disturb" sign. You can make it from a piece of cardboard. I'm sure pieces of cardboard such as this are flying around all over the place at the moment. But you can make your own "Do not disturb" sign. No room at the inn. Go away if you want your own space. You might also want a welcome sign for when you want the alternative, when you want somebody to come in. My sign here says, "No room, but welcome to my stable. Feel free to muck out." If you don't want to make one as a hook to hang on the door, you can hang it on a landscape sign and decorate it as you would. Scenes, Christmassy decorations, to give yourself some space and to think about Mary and Joseph needing some space at an inn, but ended up in a stable.
Hello everybody, so we're going to make a couple of animals today. We're going to make a donkey and we're going to make a sheep. We're going to start with our donkey. Here we are, we have our donkey template, which you will have in your bag, and a couple of clothes pegs. And here we are, we clip the clothes pegs onto the bottom of the donkey like this. And there we have a donkey, but of course it's got no fur at the moment. So here we have some fur. We're going to wind around our donkey. What's the end? Where's it gone? We're going to wind it around like this. So animals play a small part in the Christmas story. Tradition suggests that Mary went to Bethlehem on a donkey. Of course we don't know this, as the Bible doesn't mention this. But we like to think that in her very pregnant state, she didn't have to walk to Bethlehem. So this donkey, which carried her to Bethlehem, would have been in the stable when the baby Jesus was born. Living creatures are very comforting around us and they keep us warm with their body heat. Perhaps this donkey did that for Mary and baby Jesus. So we can carry on winding them all around. I'll leave this one now. Here's one I made earlier. There you are. He looks a bit warmer than this one does, but I'll leave him for a moment. And we're going to make a sheep as well. The same plan. Here we are. There's his head and his body. I'm going to put a couple of clips on the bottom, like this. There we go. He's a black sheep. We've got different coloured sheep, of course. And we're going to wind sheep wool around him as well. The sheep were with the shepherds on the hillside when the angels came to them. They must have wondered what was going on as the heavenly band of angels sang glory to God in the sky. Then the shepherds rushed down into Bethlehem. Possibly they took any small and vulnerable sheep with them. Perhaps this was one of them. Perhaps this sheep saw the baby Jesus lying in the manger, newly born. So here we are. I leave you to finish him off, and here's one I made earlier. There you go. So this will be in your packs for you to make a sheep and a donkey, the animals who were in the stable when Jesus was born. I hope you enjoy making them.
Hello. This activity is again based towards the Bethlehem stable. Imagine you are the donkey. Think of a donkey that you know. I've got two in mind. My first one is Eeyore. If you know Eeyore, just hold that thought. My second donkey is the donkey from Shrek. And if you know the donkey from Shrek, enjoy that thought. You may have another donkey in mind. What if you were the donkey that had brought Mary and Joseph to Bethlehem, to the stable? You've arrived at a stable. Think about what you've been through on this journey. Now imagine that you are one of the animals that's already in the stable. Could be a horse, after all, it is a stable. Could be a chicken, maybe another donkey, or the cattle. Because we know they were cattle, because it says so. It says, the cattle are lowing. What are they lowing? What are they talking about? What are they saying to each other? I want you to consider a conversation between the animals, between the donkey and the other animals, or between the animals themselves about the donkey. You could do this as a cartoon, a single cartoon, or a cartoon strip. It could be a dialogue. It could be a play. It could be presented in any way you choose, any style. But if you wanted to send it in to the parish office, electronically would be best. And a summary of my suggestions or my idea will be shared on Facebook, and you can consider even what happened to the donkey afterwards. So, from a different point of view, the donkey's point of view. Thank you.
We're now going to focus on the star that led the wise men to find baby Jesus in the stable at Bethlehem. Got different stars for you to make, and you can choose, you can adapt depending on the age of your children and what you happen to have at home. The first one is quite a small, simple star, which is actually made out of wooden coffee stirrers, something that are quite easy to get hold of. Or you could use, if you've got any, these different coloured sticks, if you want them to be more colourful stars. If you want to do one out of the wooden stirrers, but want to decorate them, can I suggest that you do so using felt pens or paint, but decorate the sticks before you put the star together. Much easier that way. So to make the star, you simply need to get your 3 sticks in a triangle shape and glue them together. And then the other 3 over the top, which I'll show you how to do that when I come on to the next example of a star. When you've made your star, however you decide to do it, or stars, these can quite simply be either hung, piece of ribbon or string, either outside if you want them on trees in your garden, or on your Christmas tree, or in your window, anywhere that you think they'd be effective. The other star that we're going to make is a bit more elaborate, and I've got 2 examples of those to show you, but they're quite simply made from sticks. So the first thing that you need to do is go out and gather your sticks. I was quite lucky because we had a buddleia in the garden that needed cutting down, and buddleia twigs are ideal for this. Don't worry about them being straight, they don't need to be. We can have curvy stars, you can have bits of sticks with bits sticking out of them, not a problem at all. But nice to go out as a family for a walk and gather them together. So once you've got your sticks, what you're doing is making a triangle shape. And for this is bound together using garden twine, or obviously you could use string, or you could use ribbon. So you need 2 triangles. So I've got one there that's already made, this one part made, and so what we need to just do, it's got 2 sides bound together, we just need to tie that last bit together. So with a piece of twine, we just need to tie round these 2 sections to make our second triangle. Just twist it round the wood and simply tie it in a knot. So you now have your 2 triangles which you're going to put together like that, again using the twine to just tie probably just those 2 pieces there together will be sufficient to hold it. So that's the basic structure that you need. When you've got your star shape, you've got a choice. You can either make up your wreath using all natural, oops, lost a bit of holly there, all natural resources. This one is literally holly and ivy. A word of warning, if you have young children or pets, please don't use the holly berries because they are poisonous. So you need to decide what you can use. If you're not able to use holly berries and you want a bit of red in, just use little bits of red ribbon and tie those in different places, and that will give you the colour that you need. So that one is quite simple to make, especially if you can get some nice long strips of ivy, because these tend to be very flexible. And if your garden's anything like ours, I'm sure you'll have plenty of these around which you can use. So with these, as I say, they're very flexible to actually twist them round the different sides of your star. And then when you've done that, you can use your pieces of holly in between, either tucking it in where you've twisted the holly round, the ivy round, or again, tying it with twine. So that's one that you can make that can go on your door, outside, or you can have it in the house, whichever works best for you. You may not want to have holly and ivy. You may want to have something that will be longer lasting through Advent and into Christmas. So an alternative for your star is to use old Christmas decorations. This one is made in exactly the same way as the other. You've got your basic star, and then what I've done is instead of the ivy, I've used bits of tinsel to wrap round the twigs. And you can also, if you want to, add other decorations. So you could have Christmas bells on it. You can use candy canes to hang on it. You can use baubles to hook on the different parts. bits onto it like that. You can decorate it as heavily or as lightly as you want. So I hope that you will enjoy making one of these stars, and it will remind you of the wise men on their journey to see baby Jesus.
So welcome everyone to our session on gift bags and gift wrapping. The Nativity story is full of gifts in different ways, from angels and messages to babies, music and stars and wise men. So we're going to I'm going to introduce you to the characters that we're going to use to decorate the gift bag. So we have Mary and Joseph, and we know that they travelled on a donkey to Bethlehem, and then as we progress through the story, we've got the shepherds, and they brought some gifts of sheep, and we have the angels bringing messages to them, and then later on in the story we've got some wise men that travelled on camels following a star, who also brought some gifts of gold, frankincense and myrrh. So I'm going to start decorating my bag with Mary and Joseph. And then I'd continue to add them all. So the first side on here, as I've prepared, I've got Mary and Joseph in a stable with baby Jesus and the shepherds, because they were the first visitors to arrive. And then on the other side, I've got Mary again cuddling Jesus, because the wise men arrived a few days later with their gifts of gold, frankincense and myrrh. From my range of stickers, I've saved one angel to put onto the gift tag, because throughout the Christmas story we've got angels bringing us messages to lots of different people. So when we give a gift, generally we put some kind of tag and message on it, so there's one there which then you can attach to your gift bag. If you have a bigger gift that you want to make, or an alternative, I've got some special paint here with glitter in it, and I chose gold because that was one of the gifts that the wise men brought. And I've just brought some pastry cutters. So today I've got stars and angels and bells. So I'm just going to dip into the paint and finish off this large sheet of gift wrapping paper. And I'll just leave it to dry before I use it. So, I hope you enjoy preparing for Advent as much as I do. That's really, for me, that's one of the exciting parts of Christmas, is all the preparation beforehand and making gifts. But I want you to enjoy the greatest gift this Christmas and welcome baby Jesus into your homes and your hearts, and to experience God's love.
Right, hello, welcome to my garage. This is the tidy corner, and I'm definitely not going to show you what the rest of the garage looks like. This is Christmas. It's a time when God sent Jesus. Jesus came as a baby, born in a manger. Jesus is known as the light of the world, a light that shows us the way that we should go. And we're going to make a light today. We have a light here, a candle, and we're going to make a lantern for the candle to go in. The lantern can either go inside or indeed outside. At the end of this little clip you'll see what it looks like outside. So what you need is a candle and some matches, a tin can, probably best to have about 3 tin cans, I'll explain why later, a good stout nail. This is, I think, is probably about a 3-inch nail. And a hammer. Tin cans. The trouble with tin cans is that when you've taken the lid off, they have a sharp edge. So before you do anything, you need to bash that sharp edge flat. You need to go around it. You may need to get a grown-up to do that, just to check to see that it's not sharp. Health and safety issue there. Once that is flattened, what you do is you actually fill the can with water. And you need to fill it to within about 1 to 2 centimetres of the top. Not right to the very top, about 1 to 2 centimetres. You then put that into a freezer because we want it to go solid. The reason for that is that it's much easier to bash nails into something solid. If you try doing it in an ordinary tin can, the can just bends. Fortunately, I have one that I did earlier, so we haven't got to wait 12 hours for this to freeze solid. I'll put that down, go to my freezer, and there we have, if I show you, solid ice inside it. Now this is where the gloves come in. If you try and hold that, and hold it for any length of time, it gets quite painful on your fingers, and eventually if you carried on doing it, you get frostbite. We don't want that to happen, so actually just wearing one glove is probably all you need to do, but it just means you can pick this up. And what we're going to end up with is the candle inside there shining through holes that you've bashed into the can. Now you can do that in a random manner, so you just have holes all the way around, or you can make a pattern. I've started here, and I'm starting making a Christmas tree pattern. I've got the top one there, and I've got some down here which make a stalk, and I've got some down the side there. I need some more down the side here. So you take your nail and bash it, and out comes a piece of ice, but you're left with a hole. And then you do the same again a little bit further along, and there's a hole. You may find you need somebody to hold the nail in place while you bash it. If you're doing that, try not to bash the person's fingers because it hurts. Once you've done whatever you want to do, you will end up with something that looks a bit like this. A tin can with some holes in it. Still doesn't look particularly impressive. The string, you need to attach the string to 2 holes at the very top of the can, opposite sides, and make sure you cut the ends off the string because we don't want ends going into the candle flame and catching fire. Now comes the bit where we light the candle. So we can take the glove off. Here's our candle. Here's our match. We'll do our best to see if we can get it to light. Oh, first time. And we light our candle. Now at this point you think, well, that's easy, just put that into there, but it's actually not easy to put it in there because these are quite deep. So a trick that I've learned, get a spoon and fork, load the candle onto the spoon, put the candle into the bottom. You can flick it round with your spoon or with the fork. And there is your candle and your candle light. And if we actually turn the lights off in the garage, there you can see it. I think there you're looking at a Christmas tree. And around the other side, there's a star. You can make patterns like that, or if you want to, just do random holes around the place. Entirely up to you, whatever patterns you like to do. And you may like to do more than one of these. Following this, I have a small recording of one which was taken at night, showing you exactly how this looks in the darkness. And so finally, here, shining in the darkness, is the lantern that you've just made using the tin can with a Christmas tree on one side and a star shining brightly on the other side. Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
Hello everyone. Now this activity is a stained glass window of the nativity scene. Here's one I did earlier. Okay, so what do we need for that? We need a piece of greaseproof paper, cut to size. We need some bits of tissue paper of different colours. And we need the template. And they'll all be in your packs. But this won't. I'm not going to send you glue, that would be too complicated. PVA glue, just a small amount, okay? So what we need to do is just put the PVA glue on the greaseproof paper. True Blue Peter style. It always takes longer than you think it's going to get a good spread right across it, because you need it to cover the whole bit. It's quite safe stuff, PVA glue. Our dog drank a large bowl full of it when she was a puppy. She was fine. And then we put some bits of the cut up tissue paper on. We put lots of different colours. That's the fun bit. Lots of different colours. If you can unpick them. There we go. Pink. There, and then we put a little bit of, we get our template here, and we put some PVA glue carefully on that, along the edges. All along here to make it stick, and on the star as well. So now we've got our PVA glue on here, and then we're going to pop it on to the greaseproof paper. Press it down. There you go. So there we've got our stained glass window. And now, of course, in true blue speed style, we're going to go to the one I made earlier. And all you have to do now is cut the greaseproof paper that you don't need off the edge. You can cut around it. I'd only do it roughly. It's a mummy, it's an adult job, I think, to do this really, really carefully, because the edges are quite delicate. And what we want, there we have it. Now what I'd like you to do with that is to put it in a window. And I'm going to move it over
to the window. There we go. How's that? And there we have our nativity scene, which we can stick with blue tack on the window. Hopefully your neighbours will enjoy that. There you go. I hope you enjoyed that one.
I'm going to be thinking about what it means to prepare for Christmas, to use this Advent season to prepare ourselves for Christmas. When I say that word prepare, what do you think of? What comes to mind when I use that word prepare? What do we prepare for in our worlds, in our lives? It makes me think of preparing a meal or preparing to bake something. I know at Christmas time we like to eat lots of yummy, tasty food, and we all love cake. But if we have the flour and the butter and the sugar all ready, and we're mixing it all together, and then we go to the cupboard and look for the eggs and they're not there, then it's a disaster. The cake's a write-off. We can't complete this cake as we had intended. Or I also think of perhaps maybe preparing for a sports fixture. Maybe you play for a sports team, a football, rugby or hockey team, and you train together with your teammates. Well, the reason why I think we train together with our teammates is so that when it comes to the match and we're in a fixture, we play better when we've trained together. We know how each other work. We know we can rely on our friends when it comes to a game situation, because we've trained together and we know we're ready for the game ahead. We're much more likely to be victorious and to win if we've trained well. See, preparation in life is really important, whether it be something trivial like baking a cake or something more serious like preparing for an exam. When we put the work in beforehand, it's much more enjoyable afterwards. It's much more satisfactory once we've put the work in. And same with Christmas. You see, the reason why we prepare for Christmas is because Christmas is so important. It's a really important festival and celebration of God coming down in human form, the incarnation of God as a human in the form of a baby, Jesus being born, and the way he lived out his life. He comes down to save us, and that is tremendously good news, and that is why we celebrate Christmas so much with our friends and our families. We gather together and we enjoy singing carols and we enjoy eating lots of yummy food and giving gifts. But in order to appreciate that celebration of Christmas, perhaps I can encourage you during these days of December leading up to Christmas Day, just to spend a few moments each day in preparation with God. Maybe you have an advent calendar and every day you open a new door on your advent calendar. Maybe you've got a bit of chocolate in there and you can have taste that goodness, the goodness of God, and you can think about the goodness of Christmas as each day you have maybe you have an advent candle and you wanted to spend some time watching that candle burn. It doesn't need to be a big candle, it can just be a little candle. This is a beautiful Christmassy, it says here, cranberry ice candle. It can be something fun, it can smell nice. Perhaps you just want to spend a few moments each day, just you and God, and ask him to be with you during this season as we prepare ourselves for Christmas. Because if we put the work in during Advent, the richness and the enjoyment of Christmas is just so much richer. Because if we don't prepare well for Christmas, I think sometimes Christmas can be a bit of a whirlwind. It can be over before it started, and we don't really want that because Christmas is so special. We want to enjoy that celebration of Christmas. So let us, do this season well. Let us prepare our hearts and our minds for thinking about what it means for us, for Jesus to be born in that stable, coming down from heaven, coming down to save us. And that is the good news of Christmas. And in order for us to enjoy that fully, let us use this season well to prepare ourselves for that amazing festival of celebration we get at Christmas. Amen.
So this is a wonderful song called A Band of Angels. What's going to happen is I'll sing first, and then you just have to copy when I put my hands like this. And then when we get to the verse, we sing together. A load of lads, a cold, cold night, that little bit. Okay, I hope you enjoy. A band of angels, singing and dancing, having a party in the sky. A band of angels, singing and dancing, having a great time. I wonder why. A load of lads, a cold, cold night, an angel came down and gave them all a fright. A sheep went bar, the shepherds went wide, and then they saw an amazing sight. A band of angels, singing and dancing, having a great time in the sky. A band of angels, singing and dancing, having a great time. We all know why.